Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Tech with Jabs. So this evening we've got a very special guest with us yet again. He's going to give us some great insights into the world of technology. And what's quite awesome about this guest is the fact that it's more of a strategic thinker. So he's more in a leadership position, which is going to basically be a lot of insights for some of the guys as well as to what direction we need to be taking as far as technology is concerned. So without wasting any further time, Jaco, can you just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So I'm the CEO. I've got a couple of hats, but my main job is I'm the CEO of a listed entity called Telemasters Holdings. And within that, so Telemasters Holdings is a listed entity, like I said, and it's a technology-focused investment holding. So anything that's in the next generation tech space is where we're interested and where we like to play. So currently within our portfolio, we've got a company called Catalytic, which is our managed service provider business, which mainly works with enterprises. We've got a business called Perfect Works Consulting, which is a networking system integrator. We've got a business called Continental Virtual Communications, which is a wholesale voice platform. And then last but not least, we've got a small stake, which we hope to improve in a business called Connex Link, which is a data center business. So as you can see, anything in the world of connectivity and related tech that we can offer to business, that's what we focus on a daily basis.
Jeez, that is a lot. How do you find time on a day-to-day basis, on a day-by-day basis? Because Jaco, that is a lot. Yeah.
We listen. So I've got a great team, and you know I think that's the big thing is we've got a lot of passionate, hungry people that's makes part of the team, and in order to be able to scale, you need to delegate your team, and the way in which we structure the business enables people to make quick decisions, and we trust their decisions, and by that you know it allows us to juggle quite a couple of balls.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So in 2004, Jaco, I just want us to go back a bit. So in 2004, you're basically part of the team that started Vox Telecom. Can you just please run me through your reasoning there? And I think part of the reasons that I'm asking this question is I want some of our viewers to sort of get an idea of how someone that wants to start a tech business thinks, and basically just gather and see what your motives were for starting a business at the time. Was it a timing thing, or was it more, I'm done with working for someone, we've just got to do our own thing? Or was it a bunch of mates that decided, yeah, man, we love what we do, so why can't we just do it by ourselves? What led to that?
Okay, cool. So we've got to cast our mind back. It's clear now to everybody I'm a lot older than I look. So 2004, so there was definitely a timing element to that. In 2004, the market was still quite heavily regulated, and then at that point in time, the ICASA then started deregulating the environment. So they were allowing more people to start playing in the space. So definitely from a timing perspective, that was a critical component. And how we started, I was working for a company called DataPro at that time, which was a corporate ISP.
Yes.
And when the voice opportunity then came, we then decided that we were going to use this or start a separate brand. I think for a number of reasons. Number one, to have a sort of a voice type play to it, to maybe contain the risk, because we didn't know what was going to come out of it, so it was contained, and that's where Vox started.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, why or how we did it, is we definitely didn't know what we were letting ourselves in for. I think. Yes. I often say to people, my fingers are very short because I've burned them quite a couple of times. But yeah, crazy times. We worked crazy hours, but super exciting. I don't think in my lifetime I'll experience something like that again. And like you said, it was specifically just a great timing thing. But again, you know, we had a very young, but it was just a great working environment, a great team, and that enabled us to handle the challenges as they came up. And there was a lot in the beginning, because like I say, you know, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, because the voice space is, you know, if you look at the IT space, there's tolerance for maybe a bit of delay or a slow network or congestion network or something like that.
Yes.
But voice is a real-time application, and if there's something that's going to show you your network is not at the standard where it needs to be, you run voice on it, and then that'll be exposed. So we had lots of massive steep learning curves, and we learned a lot. And I think probably, you know, like I said, part of the ingredient to success, and it sounds counterintuitive, but is the fact that we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So we just did it, and then as the obstacles came, we just took the one after the next, and that's what made us build that business.
Awesome. Really sounds like quite an interesting journey. How many were you at the time, Jaco?
When we started, we were like 4 people. So
4 people, yeah.
Yeah, we it was me and another lady that was in the data pro business for many years, and she wanted to change.
Yes.
And then I seconded to other unsuspecting victims, and I just said, "Come, you're gonna come and start Vox with me."
Yeah.
So one of them is a guy by the name of Laurent Patan, and he's still working with me to this day.
Nice.
So we stuck together. So yeah, we were 4. We literally didn't know a lot, and you know, like I say, it was a great experience. Very good learning experience.
Yeah, must have made you stronger. Yeah.
Or it took years of my life. We'll see.
Yeah, I suppose only time will tell. Eh?
Time will tell.
And then, Jaco, which brings me to my next question, right? So let's compare skills now. Because you know that earlier on in your career, very technical, a lot of implementations from a technical point of view. And then as you move along to an executive, your skills change. So now, let's just run through your skill set. Now, what skills basically did you need back then that you don't need now? And what skills do you need now that you didn't so much need back then? And part of my reasoning as well in asking me this question is also, I was listening to an interview that you did with Gareth Cliff as well. And I was just listening to you speak, and I was noticing that in you, there's that tech entrepreneur element as well, as far as your selling is concerned. I think he was complaining about how his network was terrible, but you knew that problem solver. I was just listening to that problem solving element of you. You're like, no, it's fine. If you're still not sorted, we'll try to sort you out. So that's why I'd just like to chat about those skills based on back then and now.
So yeah, very interesting that you mentioned that, and I think one of the critical skills that I learned, and I didn't have it when I started. So I was listening to a Nike podcast the other day, and they it's about the top athletes.
Yeah.
And they always start the podcast, which is interesting to me, is they say greatness isn't born, you can train it.
Yeah.
So and from that perspective, a lot of the skills that I had, I didn't have, and I learned it as we went along. I was just inquisitive, and we learned a lot. And I think very critically to what you pointed out now is one of the skills that I learned in my early days in Data Pro was to sort of follow a step-by-step problem-solving, sort of a roadmap. So and to this day, I use it. So we just you take a problem and you just go step by step, and eventually the problem or the answer will reveal itself. Yeah. Very true. When I started, it was technical. and I mean, a lot of I got more technical as the time went on, as I understood the business and all that type of stuff. That was also early days of the internet, you know. So we learned a lot, and if you were like a sponge, you could just learn a lot. And then I think probably personality-wise, for me, I tend to take sort of leadership roles. So I just worked my way into that. But and regardless of the fact that I tend to come from that technical background, so it helps us to understand, you know, sort of what the best solutions are to put forward to our customers. One of the big missions that we have at the moment now is that we don't want to be over technical to our customers. And you would have heard me maybe speak about it, where I think the illness in our industry is especially for more technical people. They think the more technical they can make things, you know, the more clever they sound, and then people will go, yes, that guy knows what he's talking about, so therefore I'm going to buy from you. But it's actually the opposite effect. Is it actually, it scares people, and then they won't go into a decision, or it takes longer for them to get to the point. So what we focus on now, or what I focus a lot of my time on, is how can we understand what the business problem is that our customers would have, and then we underpin that with a technical solution. So in other words, we talk business to the customer, and then, which is a universal language. You know, the business, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is. You know, if you understand what the business problem is, then we can say, you know, we can plug this and this and this tech in, and that's how we're going to give you visibility, or maybe reporting or something like that, or redundancy, or you know, business continuity that's going to fix that problem for you. But we've got to understand what the business is, and that's very often not a technical discussion whatsoever. So I think the skill that and you know, as we, you know, when we get tired or a little bit defocused sometimes, then you default back to sending rockets to space, like I always say. So we've got to continuously remind ourselves that we've got to understand what the business problem is, and then you know, the tech is you know, there's so much great tech out there that it's easy then to fill that hole. Whereas, you know, in the beginning days, the tech wasn't that great, so it was we probably caused more business problems back in the day than what we fixed. But now, you know, so what we focus our time now on is we've got to understand how the customer's business work, and often it's just a discussion and understanding, and then asking questions in a way in which nobody else has done it before, to say, what happens if this doesn't work, or if this breaks, and et cetera, and the customer say, oh, well, if my connectivity doesn't work, it's catastrophic for my business because I can't transact, or this or that. And then it's very easy then to put a solution in place that fixes the business problem. If we can do that, then that translates into real business value, and those customers will be friends of ours forever.
Wow. Yeah. And then you mentioned, I think there's a term that you mentioned, I think it's simplicates, if I remember correctly, where you try to simplify everything so much that it makes sense to the average Joe, basically. Yeah.
Exactly that. So I always joke with the younger guys that work with me now, that's super technical. You know, I always say to them, you know, they view themselves as the young Tom Cruise in Top Gun, and you know, they're walking with a helmet on the, you know, towards exactly. And I say, but you know, then you look on that flight deck, you know, there's so many other role players there, and you know, it's the whole picture that actually it's an outcome that you deliver that actually makes you the hero, not what you think you are. And so if we can simplify it, we add value in our customers' lives, and then, you know, they will be with us forever.
That's true. That's true. People normally love an experience, so they definitely they never let go. If you make them feel respected and welcome somewhere, they'll stick with you for life. Yeah. So Jaco, my next question, right? So I've seen how you and your team have managed to build this organization, and as well as some of the other organizations that you're building as well. My biggest challenge now, though, is the fact that you often see a lot of ribbon cutting all over the place. You see guys in tech that are doing well. They're building apps. They appear to be succeeding, etc. But then you never see where they are going, because you'd expect for such technically sound people as a country, we'd have stronger people in tech, and we'd have a thriving tech community. But for some reason that gets lost somewhere. There's a bit of that, it gets lost in translation somewhere. So now I just need your views as to why we are struggling as a country to have leaders in technologies, because surely you'd expect that with people are learning and corporate, there's a lot of investment that corporate is making into upskilling people. So you'd expect that we'd be leading as a country as far as technology is concerned. So where is that disconnect between the skill set that's currently there at the moment in the country?
Sure, that's it's a big question, that. I'll start the answer with again. I heard on a podcast I was listening to, that if you look at how Apple, for example, how they continuously innovate, is if, let's say, they want to go into a new market, they will then create like a small agile team that doesn't form part of the bigger organization. So in other words, all of the corporate red tape and all that type of stuff doesn't apply to them. And they get a clear mandate and they say, we're going into smartphones and we want to dominate, but it's a small agile team that operates on the side of an organization. So if you look in South Africa, let's be honest, the innovation and or the investment in tech skills and aka job creation and sort of building that typically happens within large organizations. But if you don't keep it on the side and not let the corporate bureaucracy slow those things down, then it's never gonna get anywhere. So I think there's a it's probably because you know, questions like what you asked now, there's not often, it's like you say, there's lots of ribbon cutting and stuff like that, but I don't know how often people go and then look backwards and say, okay, so we did this a year or 2 or 3 years ago, where have we grown to? And I think there's a lot of initiatives and all that type of stuff, but it's like you say, probably people don't say, okay, what happened 3 years ago, or what happened to these young tech stars that we brought into the organization, and where have they gone now, and why has that taken place? I think that's one of it, and then maybe more controversially is I think the whole the education system that actually has to start grooming that talent is you know, is not, it's not geared to basically build, and I think there's a lot of potential here, and we can see that in the investments that guys like Amazon Web Services are doing in South Africa, in Cape Town and stuff like that. So they acknowledge that there's good skill here, but I think we can do so much more if we start younger, instead of letting people go through the entire school system and then from there only expose them to tech, and then try and get a learnership going. And you know, it's typically in these big organizations, and it's just very, very difficult. It's not agile enough. Maybe the exposure or the decision making or the ability to test their metal earlier is not there, because you know, it's there's more corporate red tape. So I think that those are the two things that I'd say. But I think fundamentally, if we want to be serious about it, we've got to start. The education system's got to be different.
No, that's true. That's true. It's definitely got to come to par. It's got to get to a point where we know that the skills, whatever the schools are teaching, even from a primary school level, it needs to definitely be of a level that technologically they're sound. you shouldn't have institutions that are seeing the computer for the first time when they reach like a high school or even a varsity. As long as we have
exactly
those types of things, it's just not going to work.
So historically, if you take something like, let's say, for example, math or accounting, there's a period in every person's life during the school career where they get exposed to accounting and math, because everybody's going to be able to count, to do stuff. So I think computers and tech has become such a fundamental part of our. It doesn't matter what job you're gonna be in the future. You can be a doctor or a accountant or whatever, or even if you take something, you can be a mechanic at a BMW or Merc garage. It's all computer driven and software driven and tech driven. Exactly. So why do we not start that as part of like you say, when you start school, that should be part of your life, because it's going to be part of your adult life when you work. It should just be automatic. And I think we haven't thought of it like that, and maybe it's in the works. I don't know, but I think it's still too niche in the larger education system, and then it just takes. Can you just imagine if we start him in grade 1 and they expose computers by the time you finish school, you've had 12 years of that, and everybody is just used to it. It's just normal.
You take it for granted, and that's how good you are. And I mean, at that level, at a grade 1 level, I mean, geez.
And then, I mean, if we do that effectively, you can have generations worth of. I was in the States a couple of years ago at a tech conference where you had guys that they were like a GP, and then on the side they write software to improve the way in which they dispense prescriptions in their practice. Because tech and computers and programming is just part of life. And I think if we start living it like that I think we can it'll be a big difference, and we can be a powerhouse. There's nothing in the world that works without software or anything like that at the moment.
It's in our lives. I mean, and I think it goes back to that point that you had mentioned as well, that you normally share with your team, this whole idea of superstars, that Tom Cruise. My concern is it's for the masses. Like, Jaco, I have no misconceptions. I'm in corporate at the moment, and I've seen a lot of organizations. Guys in corporates are brilliant. They're good at what they do. They solve problems on a day-to-day basis. So my challenge is we need to get those skills across. We need to be to the masses. We need to be confident.
Exactly that.
All these guys are good at what they do. Not just for it to be a niche or a particular group of people that are working in a particular area that we can just say have those types of skill sets. And I think until we get to that point, and I think I like your point that you mentioned from grade 1, then that person, if they start from grade 1, they'll literally take tech for granted. And there's another point that you mentioned about maybe someone is driving it in some way. That's the thing. I don't think anyone is driving it. I'll be honest with you. I think people cut ribbons, or they give away these huge awards for students of the year or whatever, built a nice app, but no one ever follows up on that student, because clearly if that student was able to build such a brilliant app, surely someone should be saying, listen, why don't you join with a couple of your mates? We'll support you. Do something, And that's the kind of thinking and then obviously if those guys are able to build a successful tech startup, then surely they'll hire and employ more people. And the type of thinking, I think there are no drivers in that sense.
Correct. And look, I think specifically in our country, sometimes people see tech as a threat to jobs, for example. To say, but if tech brings about automation, this fourth industrial revolution, it's a super big buzzword at the moment that nobody knows what it means. But if tech brings about automation, it's going to cause people to lose their jobs. But if we change the education system so everybody knows how tech works and anybody can code,
exactly,
then all of a sudden, we can just think about it. We can write tech generate tech that actually services the world, you know,
Exactly.
and I think that's the, so I think as bigger potential threat that we perceive it, I think the opportunity is probably, you know, 10 times that.
10 times. It's a lot more. And also, Jaco, the opportunity for better jobs, because isn't that what we're fighting for? It's going to be good jobs in tech. So it's not just any job, it's going to be good jobs in tech for the masses. And I just wish people would
get
that understanding as well.
Exactly that. But I mean, it's like you say. I mean, as soon as we teach people to read and write, they should know how computer works and start learning how programming works and all that type of stuff. So it just becomes a normal part of life. And you know, like I say, even if you end up being an accountant one day, if you can code, you can still create tech or yeah.
Exactly. So, which leads me to my next question, Jaco, while you're on that note. So if, and I think this one will actually be very beneficial to some of the viewers that are going to view this episode. So if you are starting out again, right, knowing what you know, your trips to tech conferences, for example, in America, and just you've looked at the ecosystems in South Africa as well. So what would you start? Would you start anything as far as tech is concerned, or what would be your focus? What would you invest your time in tech?
So I want to, if I can go back even a little bit further on that before I answer your question, is if I had to finish school now, or if I had to advise anybody, the one thing that I wish that I potentially had a bit more exposure to and spent a bit more time on, I would love to be able to code and write programs and understand how all of these different coding languages work and all that type of stuff. Because I think if you can code for yourself, you can basically, the world's your oyster, you can do anything. If I had to start something today, I think most probably the world of AI and predicting human behavior or decision making and stuff like that. That's I think it's still in its early stages. But you know, if you just think about it, and I mean, I had a conversation today. You know, if somebody goes to let's say a Mercedes garage to buy a car, the car salesman there at that garage, he doesn't know why does that person actually go to that garage to go and buy the car. So the perception is, oh yeah, it must be the brand that's strong, but we don't know. And how does millennials make decisions? Some of them never go out; they just buy everything online or whatever the story is. So I think if that world of AI and predicting how people make decisions and what's going to happen, so in the corporate world, we talk about it a lot. You know, how do I predict or how do I measure you know, how productive and efficient my workforce is? If I can predict in 5 years' time this is going to be a major trend, I can actually make sure that my workforce is skilled up so that when that happens, that it doesn't catch us off guard and we're ahead of the curve. So so I would go something in some form of AI and predictive analytics. I think that's where there's a big future there.
Awesome, and you're right. And also, even that space, it creates a lot more opportunity as well from a data point of view, because now someone has to manage the data and look after the data and almost massage it to make sure that it's actually appealing even to corporate when it's spun out.
Well, I mean, you know, there's this big buzzword about big data, and everybody's sitting with massive amounts of data. But what do you do with it? You know, and I think that's where the future would lie. Is if people can find a mechanism not only to understand that data, but to use that to predict what's going to happen in their businesses and how it's going to grow and all that type of stuff. I think that's where there's a lot of scope for growth.
And I mean, already when you think about it, even your Googles and your Facebooks already, our data is being used anyway. So they've already got a lot of information on our locations, etc., etc. So
correct. So we just wanna do stuff like that, but use it for good, not to manipulate people.
Exactly. but Jaco, is that not how it starts though with the general message?
Exactly that. Yeah.
So okay, then my next question.
So yeah.
Sorry, were you adding another point?
No.
I wanted to ask,
all good.
What are some of the biggest risks that you actually took back then? It could be even some of the more recent risks that you're the most proud of, that you know, basically your game changer moves that, you know, had you not taken, your life would have taken a totally different trajectory.
Wow. You're making me
back in nostalgic.
Yeah, look, so like I said, you know, I think when we started Vox, I can honestly say now, I mean, at the time we were all, I almost want to say fake it till you make it, but we honestly didn't know the magnitude and the uphill sort of trajectory that we were letting ourselves into. So I think from that perspective, that was a risk, but or risk that we took. But it's probably, you know, the one opportunity that we had is I think for the age that I was then, no normal organization would have probably given us that opportunity. So from that perspective, I'm very thankful to the guys that gave us that opportunity. And that was a risk, and most probably, if it didn't work out like it worked out, you know, it could have probably been a career killer. That more recently, like I said, you know, we are a partner and quite active in a data center business that we started less than a year ago, or about a year ago. And everybody's going, why are you starting a data center when all of these hyperscalers that like Microsoft and AWS is taking over the world? But we believe that well, what I'm certainly seeing is I think there's a lot of movement in that cloud space, and there's a lot of companies that go into those hyperscalers, and I definitely think that there's a space for them in the market, but I don't think it's the answer for everything. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of people that's going into those hyperscalers and then coming back because they go, it's quite a bit more expensive than what we thought it was going to be, and maybe we must only use it for special applications and not for everything. And then there's also the you know, this thing around data sovereignty, and with Poppy coming into play. So yeah, we believe there's and actually you know, a space to improve the way in which businesses deal with DR and disaster recovery planning and all that type of stuff. So I'd say that was probably our most recent risk, where a lot of people just looked at us and say, "You Alex must be nuts," you know. So and then I don't really know if I can call it a risk or something like that, but yeah, maybe somebody will look at it in our catalytic business. We probably a little bit over a year ago, a year 18 months ago, we actually structured the business in such a way that we have no managers in the business. And a lot of people look at us and they go, "Oh, but that's impossible." So we created multidisciplinary teams, and within those teams, that's where the decision making sits. You know, so they don't have somebody looking over their shoulder. They basically, you know, they've got to drive their small little business within our organization, look after their customers and all that type of stuff. And I don't know if you saw that, you know, Reed Hastings, the guy that started Netflix, he's recently written a book called No Rules. So it looks like there's no rules, but there's rules. And we followed a similar methodology where a lot of people say, "But how is it possible that you don't have managers?" And how, you know, again, so that was probably a little bit of a risk, but it's worked out very well for us because it's given people participation and agency within the business, and you know, they can be innovative and make suggestions, and yeah, we basically entertain any suggestion from anybody that to improve the business or change things and stuff like that. So very flat structure, and a lot of people say to me, this ain't gonna work, you must be crazy. And like I say, you know, so that was a I didn't perceive it as that big a risk, but like I say, a lot of people that I shared that information with just said, you're nuts, it's never going to work. And it's worked out in our favor. The team is really you know, how can I say, grown quite beautifully as part of that process.
That sounds like quite an interesting one, Jaco. It's quite an exciting one. Let me first go back to the point you made about your data centers and you basically swimming upstream as far as data centers are concerned. I think you are right. There is a bit of a room for other organizations as well in SA, and I guess many of your peers that you're communicating with, the challenge is that they're obviously noticing how every company in one form or the other is a partner with either Microsoft or AWS in terms of the way things are going at the moment. I mean, it's blatant, it's obvious how everything is. But what 100%. I have noticed as well is, to your point, is the fact that the licensing costs are really, in as much as when Microsoft or AWS advertises some of the products that they're advertising, I've noticed that some of the licensing, as companies actually take on some of the products, they start to rethink and say, hang on, why are we paying so much for such and such and such and such? So which opens up a bit of opportunity as well in that sense.
Look, I think a lot of people go there because of the fact that it's going to remove a lot of the operational, I don't want to say risk, but a lot of the operational activities in the sense of maintaining and upholding infrastructure. Yeah. And it ends up, you know, regardless of where you run your cloud environment, you still have the responsibility and the worry to make it work. Yeah. And like I say, you know, I think if people understand the cost, they look at it and they say, you know, maybe usage-based or transactional-based cloud environment is not what we need. It's too expensive. And let's stick with tin and let me make sure I control my data and stuff like that. Because even in those big hyperscalers, you know, I think there's a common misconception with people going, well, if I'm in Azure or AWS, I don't need to worry about backup or DR because, you know, those guys will just take care of it. But they don't guarantee the service. So I think there's a lot of misconception around that. And like I said, I think a lot of people that tried it and they look at it and go, okay, well, that's maybe a little bit more expensive than we originally thought. So you know, let me bring it back in-house in whatever shape or form that would be.
Yeah, that is so true. And then the team that you mentioned as well at Catalytic, I need to go back to that one because that's quite an interesting model. I think it's quite a cool one. In fact, I think that's the kind of model that will breed a lot of innovation. Like if handled obviously right, I think when people feel free to express themselves, let me put it that way, there's a lot that can come from that. Even other spin-off companies within even those small teams that you're building off, that will do some great things for Catalytic.
So within that, and what it's done, and I've got to be honest, not everybody liked it from the word go, but what it's done is within those teams, everybody knows who their customers are, where we are with what products or projects and stuff like that. I think the participation that we've created by making the structure so flat, we're seeing people participate that previously would have sat in some other job there and they wouldn't have said a word, and so there's great participation, and there's also greater accountability because for example, if we make a mistake or cause a customer to be unhappy, we all feel the pain at the same time, and nobody can blame each other because they're working as a team and it's not different departments. So yeah, I think based on some of the research we've done, that's models that guys like Google and Facebook are running. And for South Africa, people think we're nuts, but yeah, it's like I say, it's actually worked out quite nice for us. We've got quite a young, vibrant team, and the people are fitting into it beautifully.
How the meetings held? Jaco, is it a Scrum Agile type of setup where you have your daily stand up in the mornings, etc., and then except the guys just know where to go, and then after they're done?
So the seating arrangement is they actually sit in a team format. So within a team, you'll have your sales, your projects, your technical guys, the what we call customer liaison, the people that look after the admin and accounting side of our customers. They all operate in a team, and from a seating arrangement, they actually sit together. Okay. So they collaborate, the whole time. And then on a Friday, again, counterintuitively, Friday is my busiest day of the week. That's when everybody's winding down to relax. That's actually my busiest day. Sure. I then meet with each of the teams, and we've got a set list of criteria that we then evaluate our activities and our successes for the week. And if there's any problems that pop out, we discuss there around what we're going to do to fix it. So very flat, very open, and highly collaborative. It's like I said, we don't have different departments. They all sit together and they've got to make sure that stuff works. So probably if you had to ask the guys that work with me, probably the word that I use the most is communication. Every time I talk, I just say, guys, you've got to communicate. You've got to communicate. So that collaboration and communication is a critical portion of what we deliver to our customers.
No, I think that's pretty cool, Jaco. The communication element, I'm sure it helps people to become free. Once you open that space up, everyone just starts letting information basically pour out because they feel free to do so, because you empower them to do so. So that's quite cool. Then over to my next question. I guess now what I actually want to find out is, there was an organization that I met them because they were in Joburg for a while, called Silicon Africa. And their focus is pretty much just helping to build tech ecosystems. And I guess what I wanted to find out from you as big business is how do we sort of build a bridge, for lack of a better word, between small business and big business? Because big business, we all know the skills are there. And not just that, but I think the skills might be there on both sides, but sometimes it's a matter of processes. In big businesses, processes and all those types of things have been ironed out extremely, extremely well. So Jaco, in your opinion, how can we now create an environment? Because I'm really keen on building this culture. This culture has to grow, this tech culture. But now if there's this disconnect, obviously, between big business and some of the tech startups, guys with the ideas, then it becomes a bit of a challenge. So how can we help build this ecosystem, but involving you guys as big business as well, to collaborate
that's probably the most difficult question that you asked me today. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. Yeah. I think so in a startup environment, I think the guys have very firm and fixed ideas of how they want to do their things, and maybe they don't always how can I almost say, want to take direction and leadership. Yeah. And actually something that I think that's interesting is probably the biggest misconception is those people think the only thing that they need is money. Yeah. Most of the time, necessity is the mother of all innovation, and money is not necessarily that. I think the minute you start making a bit of money and becoming successful, yeah, you lose a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit, in the sense that you then start trying to protect your assets instead of just going gung-ho and with the passion that you started with. So So I think potentially the way to do it is almost, you know, like I said, I think that you know, the entrepreneurial guys, if and it's probably a dangerous thing that I'm saying now because I might be flooded, but you know, I cannot tell you in the last 18 months of any small business that's approached us and said, listen, we've got an idea or a concept or a whatever, can we collaborate and or let's just share ideas. You know,
I know,
can
yes, I
we
don't
test our
understand that.
concept?
That's my challenge with people. Shucks. I mean,
so, but you know, and I think you know, it starts with the misconception that entrepreneurial guys think that the only thing that's missing in their lives is money. Money is, you know, if you've got the right concept or product or whatever, you know, the money will come whichever way. I think what benefits people can derive from people that's probably done it a couple of times is maybe a bit of how can I call it, mentoring structure, so you don't have to make the same mistakes as what we did, for example, you know, so you can actually save money and time by just, you know, getting advice and actually putting yourself out there and asking the questions. So I think you know, there's probably opportunity around that. You know, we people must just be a little bit more open and tested, and then I think the other thing is you know, there was another podcast that I listened to over the weekend where the concept is go for no. You know, if you're entrepreneurial, you're gonna get a lot of people that's gonna say to you, no man, it's a stupid idea, don't do that. But you know, those no's are good, because you'll probably get ideas or feedback to say, well, you know, if it wasn't like this, if it was like that, you know, then potentially the idea wouldn't be that crazy. So I think I almost want to say people must put themselves out there, and then you know, from a business perspective, you know, I don't count us as big business. You know, we sort of probably more medium to smallish or whatever. You know, we only have a staff complement of about 40. So we by no means a big business. I think you know, probably like you say, I think big business or established business can contribute to these incubators and we maybe need to rethink it a little bit, like you say, we don't just have the ribbon cutting and stuff like that, but we actually track and go and see, you know, what happened to it, and maybe have a bit more of a multidisciplinary approach to that, where it's not only a business component, you know, but you almost have a team where people can from a let's call it accounting perspective and a commercial perspective and a legal perspective, can help these entrepreneurs to grow. But I think at its most basic form, I think people have to put themselves out there and go and ask. And like I say, no is not a bad thing. Don't see that as a failure. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, that's very true. And I guess my thinking there, Jaco, is the fact that what you say is actually, it makes sense. But I also wonder whether from an incentive point of view, other guys might maybe, for them, I guess it would be, what would we gain? I'm just thinking about the different organizations from actually helping people grow. And I think that could also maybe pose a bit of a challenge. I don't know. I'm thinking in that sense, because obviously business needs to be making profits and dealing with customers, doing work, right? And then I guess if we start to reach that sort of position where now it becomes a matter of how do we incentivize that whole collaboration as well.
Correct. So I mean, and I mean, you correctly putting it out. You know, I think you know, as a primary function, you know, our business is to make sure that the business runs and that we generate value for our customers and our shareholders. So you know, and like I say, you know, it's we run hard and lean and mean. But like I say, you know, I mean, I think if you're entrepreneurial and you believe in what it is that you're going to do and all that type of stuff, you know, like I say, I cannot think in the last year and a half where anybody's come to me and said, listen, I've got this business idea. What do you think? Or can I just do a pitch for you? I don't expect anything but feedback. You know, maybe the pitch is of such a nature that the business says, flip, yes, there's something here. I need to get involved here and all that type of stuff. So I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, people have to put themselves out there a bit more and think creatively around how you can catch the interest of somebody. And I agree with you. You know, I think if you go to to the big business, you know, it's probably difficult to get in front of the right people. So you know, maybe start with a smaller business and then build it up. But there's a lot of business groups and mentoring type programs or whatever. But you know, people must just put themselves out there and keep on asking until you get the right answer. You know, that's until you get the yes.
No, but then that's true. But then I guess another thing though is the fact that for me, it often disappoints me because I don't know if you've noticed, Jaco, in most instances there are more complaints about various situations. So for me,
yes,
I'm the kind of person that likes to see if there are all these complaints about various situations and I want to include them all, then you would expect that you would have gotten at least 100 no's from people, because then at least you have a point to stand on, you've got a foot to stand on to say, no, I spoke to Jaco. Jaco, literally, I told him, here's my one pager, Jaco. This is what I want to do. This is when I start. And I've spoken to a million.
Exactly that.
And they're all saying no.
Exactly that.
And that's why.
And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be willing to walk over coals. It's not an easy road.
Yeah.
And part of that is, like you say, is putting yourself out there, and then you know you can't say, well, I've tried 5 times or 10 times and nobody believes in me and therefore I need to give up. You know, you've got to keep on asking or finding a way. You know, you've got to be like water. You've just got to find the best way and continuously and never give up. You know, that's the point. It's mental strength. You've got to believe in what you do, and if you believe, you'll make a plan.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, so Jaco, on that point, you sounded very presidential there. So I think it's a good runway to my next question. So Jaco, you are the president of South Africa, right? Based on what you've been doing for the past couple of years, all the way from building the business with the team to where you are at now and playing around with different ideas from a strategic point of view, you're the president of this country. Let's grow this tech ecosystem. What would you do?
It's a big question. That so again, you know, I mean, at its basic level, I would immediately start with the education system, and from that perspective, I would make you know, tech and coding specifically, because that's where, you know, software is the future. Yes. I would make that compulsory from day one, and people must learn. That would probably be my first avenue.
Yes.
And then I think, and you know, not to use the same terminology, but you know, this part or opening it up. I would how can I call it? I would put somebody in a ministerial role that's not a politician, that comes from the industry, that with a single mandate to say, make this thing work like a business, like so we grow it. But fundamentally, like, you know, like you said earlier, it's got to be a grassroots thing, and you've got to work out how do you reach as many people as you can, and the only way that you can do it is through the education system. So I mean, I think that would probably be my immediate response, and just say, how do we get this into every single school out there from day one? You know, that would be my angle.
Awesome. So build everything from the grassroots up, and then
100%.
And I think it works, because I think it works, but with long-term thinking, in the sense that
yes,
to remember that while they're young, we're consistent. We don't now 20 years later start changing the whole planning, and yeah.
Exactly that, 100%.
Okay, so Jaco, so some of the viewers will definitely want to be involved in what Catalytic Communications is doing. How can they get involved? Who should they speak to in terms of internships or etc.? Yeah, in terms of working with
Okay,
you.
so we've got a number of channels, digital channels, if I can call it that. So obviously there's our website catalytic.co.za.
Yeah.
Then we've got a LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn handle, I think, is Catalytic Communications.
Yeah.
And then if they go to our website, we've got an email address called Let's Connect.
Yeah.
So if they email us at Let's Connect, I'm one of the people that get those emails. And like I say, you know, I think we're always looking for opportunity for people that can add value, and I think that's an important, like we said now, you know, you've got to go with the angle of saying this is how I can add value, and add value is, like you say, is maybe coming up with something innovative, or saying, you know, how can we collaborate, or I've got this idea, what do you think, how can you help, or stuff like that. So yeah, those are the typical channels into the to connect to us.
Great one, Jaco. With regards to, you said the other one is called Let's Talk, the one that you get the emails to, because sometimes when people
let's connect.
Let's connect. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people send things across, you don't know who's in that mail or in that mail. So to know that you are also there, I think will put many viewers' minds at ease that you are part of that communication. Because you know you don't want to.
Like I say, the structure is flat. I've got nowhere to hide.
Cool, awesome. And then the next question, Jaco, is what do you have to say for an aspiring CEO? Is there even such a thing where one says to themselves that one day I'd like to be a CEO of an organization? Because you have a lot of these coming around in nowadays. Everyone is a CEO of this, CEO of that. But what does that mean? If someone says they want to be
So that's actually a very, very good question, because, you know, and that's something I speak about a lot, and I think it's very good to be aspirational. A lot of times when we interview people and we say, you know, that normal cliche of where do you see yourself in 5 years, everybody wants to be a manager. Mm-hmm. But I think if you define what CEO means, you know, and like I say, fundamentally, and this is my philosophy, I'm not saying this is the right and only philosophy. Yeah. My philosophy is I'm a team member and a servant of my team and my customers. If I need to drive to one of my customers to go plug in a cable or plug in a phone or something like that, I'll happily do it, because at the end of the day, it's a team effort to be successful. I think so you've got to believe in number one, the mission and vision of the company that you want to own the one day or run the one day, yeah, and be the CEO of. You've got to be ready for a long, difficult journey, and I think if your mindset is that with your team you're going to be successful. I think there's, and it doesn't come overnight. I think you've got to just, it's similar to the entrepreneurial discussion that we had. You know, you've got to be willing to put in the hard yards and suffer a bit and walk over a couple of hot coals in order to get to your destination.
Which I think makes all the difference. No shortcuts, basically.
No shortcuts.
It's not the culture what
there's nothing comes easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which
exactly
is
exactly that. Yeah.
So,
but and I think for me, and not to be a cliche, but you know, like if we look at our most recent Springbok coach, I think if you look at somebody like Rassie Erasmus, yeah, he's a very good sort of I can almost say role model to follow. he's one of the guys, and he speaks frankly and openly, and he's got the experience. He's done it before. So yeah, I think the biggest skill that you have to learn is most probably is to put the right team together in order to get your goal, and that's not always easy. If you can do that, then the rest will come easy.
The right team in place.
The right team.
Awesome. And then, Jaco, on that note, any last parting words, advice for the guys out there that have no direction right now? They know they want to get into tech. At least they are teachable. At the very least, they are teachable and open to a new way of thinking, but they just don't know where to start. What would you give them?
So look, my feeling is, and I was actually thinking about it quite a bit recently. Yeah. If you look at from when I was at school, and again I look a lot younger than I really am. When I was at school, something like the internet didn't exist, and you had to go to a library, and then you were limited to the amount of information that was in that specific library, for example. But now we've got the internet, and I think there's a lot of public places where the internet's available as well. And if it's me, there's podcasts, there's lots of information on YouTube and all those kind of things. My feeling would be is learn as much as you can, try as much as you can, do stuff. And then, like I say, go knock on doors, but there's a wealth of information that people can use to just better themselves. For example, there's a crowd in the US called Lambda School where they teach you for free how to code, and there's a number of those things, So, and again, it's difficult because you're gonna have to put in hard yards. You're gonna battle quite a bit and all that type of stuff. So my answer to that is learn as much as you can, put in the hard yards, and don't give up, and just put yourself out there and suck up as much information as you can. If you can do that, you'll be an asset to any organization, and you'll find your way.
Thank you very much. This was a very, very insightful session, Jaco. And I don't know, I guess for me, it feels like you have these types of sessions and you just think to yourself, the jewels or the wealth of information that's there, and you just think to themselves, if the guys can hear, because it's different hearing from someone who says, I still want to build a business, but someone that's actually living in that world. Surely you would think if you want to live in that world, you'll just take the advice and start building brick by brick. So thank you yet again for this session, and I hope that in the future there'll be many more as well.
Me too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And then we'll just share it with the guys, and then hopefully they can learn something, and not just learn, but actually implement some of the things, some of the jewels and pearls of wisdom that you've really just been sharing with us. So thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic.
And we look forward to another episode of Tech with Jabs.
Yeah, me too.